Storm Surge threshold, so it was almost like an instant fix. But the problem with that team was that they were consistently getting stuck in that 12th, 13th, 13th, 15th. You know, that was kind of some of their match history on top of having the Victory Royale too. So despite the fact they were struggling with Storm Surge at the start, they often just committed to high ground way too much when zone started moving, used way too many materials. We saw in one of those games clicks go down back of zone, no mats after trying to take high ground. So leaving, like, it was Bizzle by himself. Yeah, he got a few points. Solo, I remember picking up some good eliminations in that game in particular. But still...
The one that he won, actually.
The one, yes, the one that they won as well. There was one that he won as a solo, but then there was another game that they also ended up doing the same thing first moving too. So it's like, you know, those hype plays and pick up the victory rounds, but obviously they didn't work too much because you've already said it. There's so many teams contesting the high ground.
Just so many trios. And you know, all of them have one thing on their mind. Can we grasp the axe of champions? Can we hold on to this lead? Can we create a lead for ourselves? Can we close the gap? There's so much on these players' mind, but this is it. We have 6 matches ahead of us. And after 6 matches, we'll know who the next FNCS Trios Champions is from NA East. Fortnite fam, buckle up, because we about to go on a ride. We're jumping aboard the battle bus, so you know what time it is. We gotta hang out with our casters. It's Monster D-Phase, it's Aussie Antics. Gentlemen, say hello.
Thank you, Zeke, and yeah, let's make sure the battle bus doesn't go off without us, because we are calling all of the action today, and we're actually continuing the action from yesterday. Let's not forget, this is a 2-day format. We'll be hopping into game number 7. Aussie, where we left off yesterday, we left off on a cliffhanger because it was looking like a runaway train for some, and all of a sudden teams have caught up, and now we got ourselves a competition.
Teams are caught up. We've got a big competition on our hand. We have Dame Mirror Reverse poised to potentially become the first players ever in NA East to get 2 times FNCS back to back. You can't do it in more dominant fashion than that. We've seen top tier trios stay together since last season. So many of them up there on the leaderboard. I'm so excited to see it, Monster. We have storylines developing. We have big names down on the leaderboard who need a phenomenal day 2 to catch up. But yeah, who's going to be able to take it out of the top? It's so close.
And that's the thing. There's no cutting corners here. It's time to put up and put it all on the line. Bugha, Bizzle, and Clix there, we talked about how they're all of a sudden uptrending. They pulled in a Victory Royale, had a struggle of a day. I think that was the biggest upset, though, I think, coming into this, because they were a fan favorite for all of us.
They were fan favorite for all of us. We also had Zate, Saf, and Stretch. They're coming out of the reboot round. Normally, that's not a team with really high expectations on them, but we know what that storyline is. If you follow NA East competitive scene at all, you know seeing Zate, Saf, and Stretch in the reboot round at all was a giant upset. They won it. The storyline was there. They switched their drop spot back to the Hydro Dam. They've got their RPG, but they're down on leaderboard right now. They're getting contested, and it's almost like that story we saw during the last FNCS at Doom's Domain. But I don't know, if any team can come back and have a legendary day 2, it's going to be that team. They know how to put victory hours on the board, but they're going to have to do it fast. We have 6 more games, and they need to make every single one count if they have any chance at this.
Yeah, and it's their legacy that's on the line here. We're talking about a trio, even as individuals, and their other individual performances have, I believe, finished top 5 in every other grand final or major event up until now. So now that we're looking at this final setting here, you know, they have something to live up to now, right? They have something to live up for. Their win through the reboot round was celebrated through the community, because it wouldn't have been a finals for some if they didn't see Zate, Saf, and Stretch make it here. And now they're struggling, so I feel like that continuation, today's the day where they can do it, though. They're also a team that they're wild card, right? Known to switch up drop spots, known to do things out of the ordinary. So I'm with you on that. I want to see them step up. I want to see them try something different today.
Well, that's the thing. When you've got the caliber of NA East play as well, we've got 12 games on the board. So teams like Zate, who have put up multiple victory hours in FNCS finals before, they need to show up today, but they can really disrupt the storyline for other teams like Day and Mira and Reverse at the top of the leaderboard. It's not just eyes on that top 5. Any team can come out and surprise you. You were just talking about it then as well. We've got Chap and Zate, both players who have come top 10 in every FNCS final they've played. They're both outside the top 10 right now. Stretch had to win the reboot round to continue his legacy of making it to every single FNCS final ever. So Stretch continues legacy. He made it here, but Zay could potentially lose this one here. It'll be a massive upset to not see them at least top 10.
Exactly just that. We have a lot to look forward to as the battle bus is now starting to kick up. Looks like we're all fueled in and we're ready to go ahead and hop on over to it. This is going to be game number 7 of 12, and we're going to be kicking it off here, and the world will start to begin to get populated. Other teams to look out for, of course, are our top 3s, Degen, Agers, Skittles. My pick to definitely do something big here. Slax, Acorn, and Jock, though, the closest contenders for that first place throne, who at the moment is being sat on by the previous FNCS champions of Day, Miro, and Reverse 2K. So, Aussie, we are going to be in for a world of games and potential upsets and heartbreaks.
I mean, we really are. If you even look at the leaderboard right now, Slax, Jack, and Acorn, they're on 147 points. We've got our first place, Day, Mirror, Universe on 165. Both of them have a victory royale, and both of them have an average placement of exactly 9th. It's the eliminations that separate them right now. Day, Mirror, Universe, average elims of 7.5. Slax, Jack, Acorn, 6.33. So we had Reese talking about there in the intro, the fact that Miro alone has more eliminations than 30 of the teams competing here today. So that performance right now is what's making the point difference, but that's not a lot. That's not what you want to rest on. You've got another team that's playing as consistently as you into the end game in a very, very placement heavy format. You've got to pick up the pace if you want to hold on to that lead, because it's going to shift instantly here today.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to make the comparison of Miro to like Hen's journey from EU. We just watched the EU Grand, the finals play out, right? And watched them take this all away. Hen as well, like really started to find his footing coming into the FNCS Invitationals, coming into these more recent big tournaments of DreamHack and whatnot. It's the same for Miro. Space hard and running when these solo competitions started to spin up, and it was his solo season. He carried that into trios, and now he's continuing on his legacy here, building the story of Miro, and he's done it in such a short time frame, like such a short window. I feel like with every tournament now, once again setting the bar for himself higher and higher. Take a look here though. We have Knight, AV, and Shark here trying to hold down Pleasant Park. They're being contested. We haven't seen them show up as big as we'd like though.
No, they didn't show up in the way that we normally saw last FNCS. They were doing phenomenal right up until the finals. The finals was a bit shaky, a little bit unfortunate. They were dropping in that southwestern section of the map, that kind of shantytown logjam area. They decided that wasn't really working for them yesterday, where they were still going, and now they're going to be dropping at Pleasant Park. And we've seen a lot of contention at Pleasant Park across all the regions, but especially NA East. I don't think I've watched a single game of Fortnite this season where it hasn't been at least contested by one team. And it's a drop spot that's interesting because it doesn't have a lot of loot, and it looks like Knight and Shark are making their way to the stealthy stronghold. I don't know if they know that maybe there's no team up here or a weaker team. Based on the battle bus, they would have been able to see. I just think they're trying to either get away from Silverback's team, or they're just trying to get a little bit of extra loot because they're a man down and they're not looking fantastic. This is the mental reset, right, Monster? You've had a night to sleep on it. You could have VOD reviewed the games, gone back and watched them, figure out the game plan. So this first game is massive. How do you change up what happened yesterday, or how do you find the same consistency, as it looks like Frist, Bully, and Osp are going to find the same consistency they did yesterday, winning yet again another spawn fight at Steamy Stacks, which means Chap, Dukes, and Threats are out of this one yet again.
That's so big for this trio right here, who's battling their way into that top 10. Let's not forget, if first is out of your reach, there is still top 3 on the line here, as Xset is going to rotate right up to the stealthy stronghold. When you look at their performance, Xset yesterday, bar for bar up against Divine's team, who's contesting them at Pleasant Park. Divine's trio was actually winning the drop over and over. So I like this idea to rotate out early, look for a different fight, maybe play an ambush strategy, something different, but it's already not working. They're down AV here. They're down a member, and we all know what happens. 2v3s are not easy battles to take by any means.
And the team they're pushing as well, Crumble, Nexi, and Mars. Yesterday, they started so strong. They had a 4 elimination 9th place, and 8 elimination 3rd place. That saw them, I believe, in 3rd overall after those 2 games. And then everything went downhill, Monster. A 31st place, a 17th, a 32nd, and a 32nd. So in their final 4 games, they got a single placement point. So they need to pick things back up here. They've shown they can do it. They've shown in those first 2 games they have the potential. We've been talking up Mars a lot as a player who just kind of plays the game differently to everyone else. He doesn't play scrims a lot. He plays tournaments and he plays arena. Obviously, if you guys have heard about it, over 300,000 arena points this season. So my man's a grinder, but because of that, he does play a little bit differently, and I want to see what they can bring to the table today, because when they get running, they have the ability to take out victory royales. But right now, the consistency consistency isn't there as we swap over to another team, our second place team, who has had, I would argue, probably the best consistency, not just this weekend, they're in second place, but almost all season. They have been phenomenal.
Yeah, they're just short of a championship title, and that's what they're fighting for right now. It's the pride, it's the reputation, it's just to say you have done it before. It's such a huge accolade to achieve in a pro player's career, and it's the only thing that should matter, honestly. I was gonna say it's what matters most, but no, it's the only thing that should matter is taking home that first place spot when you're up here, because you're trying to prove you are one of the best, and that's what Slax and Acorn and Jack have done here up until now, especially Jack and Acorn. Their reputation, the rapport they've built with one another is, again, something to be looked up to, something to really be admired. Here's another team on the come up, though. Teo, Tabney, and Chimp, dark horses to take this whole thing. They had a strong 2-game start, and then all of a sudden just hit a wall. And if you pay attention to social media, they were really leaning into the whole, the zones weren't something that they were comfortable with. It didn't just go in their way that time around. But I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's a good enough excuse for me. I think it's the pressure of a grand finals and these finals type settings, right? It's the final settings here that really make the difference for some of the new players.
I agree, it is. You've got to have game plans for every scenario. NA East is kind of always, prided for how good their practice scene is, how many games they run. They usually run 6 to 7 games almost every single day of the week, practicing against each other, using custom lobbies to try and get that practice. And if the zones don't go your way, you should know how to account for that. We've seen phenomenal performances from teams that also didn't get zones. Again, yesterday, Centered Edgy Commandment, perfect timing to shine eyes on them. Their victory Royale came from the game when it went far north into Craggy, and they are a Misty Meadows team. So they did the entire map rotate and managed to get the victory Royale. And look at the loot here. This is a team that's interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't forgotten Vivid's comments there at the start. He was saying his pick's a little bit better than mine. I'm not gonna disagree that his pick looks phenomenal. They're very close on the leaderboard, but Commandment, Edgy, and Centered started yesterday getting contested, which threw off their first games a little bit. They got decent points, but I think it really did kind of throw off their momentum. Now they're back to being uncontested. I really think we're going to see phenomenal things from this team, but they need to step up pretty soon. They're in that 5th place slot. They're over a victory royale down on points, or just around a victory royale. So you've got to imagine, even if they get that victory royale, that means Damir and Reverse have to get a 0-point game. So they've got to step up the pace here.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that. They started to get their groove. They really did begin to pop off, pulling in a string of big games. 3rd, 1st, 7th, and then that last game, though, and this is the risk of being uncontested, Storm Surge was the biggest problem.